Hello everybody, we are Luciana and Marcela. We have chosen to work with the narrative poem version of the story Little Red Riding Hood, written by Roald Dahl. This lesson plan has been designed for students aged 14-15 years old who are at an intermediate level in a second year in a public high school. These students work with the classic narratives as well, so to make it more interesting, they are going to work with the poem version of the story Little Red Riding Hood, narrative they already know. They have been working with the past simple of regular and irregular verbs used in affirmative, negative, and interrogative form. To begin with, we would like to explain what genre is and its importance in storytelling. Writers can choose from a wide range of genres in literature to suit their personal interest and writing style. A genre of literature is a classification that describes the content, tone, and style of a writer's work. In this case, we have chosen a narrative poem. A narrative poem is a longer form of poetry that tells an entire story with a beginning, middle, and end. Narrative poems contain all of the elements of a fully developed story, including characters, plot, conflict, and resolution. These poems are typically told by just one narrator or a speaker. Narrative poetry is one of the major categories of poetry, but it is distinguished from lyric poetry by its focus on plot over emotions. Building up subject matter. As the students need to possess knowledge about the area of experience, the teacher will help them build up their knowledge about subject matter. The teacher will start her consideration of the subject matter by telling an anecdote in which she or he will include the key elements she wishes to elaborate on. That is critically related to the story, such as the strong emotion of fear and not listening to parents. This will be because in the poem, Little Red does not listen to her mother. That's why she gets lost in a forest and meets Wolf and has to face a confrontation with it later on. An event that enables us to deal with those emotions and the outcome of this experience. This will help the pupils with a useful context for the use of the past simple tense. As the teacher tells the story, here she will signal through gestures that here she's talking about something that happened to him or her when she was 15 years old. The teacher story will be about a time when he or she did not obey his or her mother and the consequence it had. In order to make sure this is understood correctly, the teacher will resort in Spanish just to make sure the central idea of the past is clear to them. After telling the story, the teacher will wait for them to ask some questions. Then the teacher will show them some pictures related to the poem and take one or more steps before actually reading the poem. She may ask some follow-up questions like, where is the little girl? What is she doing? What does the girl look like? Is she friendly? Behind each picture, there will be a piece of sentence describing the picture. The student will have to match the sentence with each picture. This will be anticipating quite a bit about the feel of the narrative. These activities involve building up an area of experience, organizing it into its components or classes, and skillfully using the linguistic resources we need to create it. In so doing, we are trying to take care of one of the aspects that can interfere with the process of understanding and producing a text. That is the knowledge about the subject matter and the basic linguistic resources we need to talk about. Additionally, this work initiates our students into a more regarding reading or writing experience as they deal step by step with the different aspects involved in the understanding or production of a text. Modeling the text. As Holiday says, modeling a text involves moving into the text from its more abstract contextual features to the more concrete linguistic choices made in the text. The teacher will show the students how the text is structured and some of its key contextual factors. So before reading, the teacher will deliver a photocopy with the poem to each student. Then she will ask the students to sit down on the floor. She's looking forward to give the students a pleasant, direct, and instructive contact with the text as they first read it and experience it. They are going to read the story twice. The second time, the teacher will stop them at key moments and ask some follow-up questions like, where does she live? How does she feel? Where is she at? The teacher will show the students some pictures to discuss about the poem, focusing on the progression of the narrative. The teacher will show the diagram of the mountain representing the structure of the narrative to help them understand the different moments in the story. And using the pictures she has, they will organize them in the mountain in order to make them notice how the progression of the narrative works. After that, the teacher will give them a copy of the poem in which they have to complete it with the past form of the verbs. After that, they are going to write a sentence telling how they think the little rest day finished that day. Then she will ask the student to use different colors and classify the verbs into regular and irregular past verbs. The function of the teacher in this stage is again critical. We need to spend some time at this point at the tour of sorts away from the lexical grammar that will enable students to later use the structure comfortably in the authentic context of a text. We have the role of explicitly discussing the contextual, semantic, lexical, grammatical properties of the text.
Joint contraction. The purpose of this stage is to write the text collaboratively with the class as a preliminary step to students' own independent contraction. The role of the teacher in this stage will be as a scribe. Students will start writing a poem based on one of the stories already worked in class, Matilda, from the same author, Roald Dahl. To build up the feel related to the story, the teacher will provide examples of words that rhymes, all of them related to physical description, school, education, family, etc. The input in this stage will be considerable to raise awareness of the genre and some characteristics to be taken into account when writing a narrative poem. The teacher will ask students to get into group and discuss the general plan for the poem they will develop. They will probably ask for help with additional vocabulary or any linguistic feature they may need. After a considerable time, the teacher will provide guidance with key elements that a narrative should include by using the following chart. Questions in this stage will help them to focus on the details they need. Inquiring about characters and conflict will delimit the situational context and the linguistic features which are essential to see the general view of the story. After the students have the chance to start to imagine the story and build up confidence, the ideas shared in group, the teacher will invite them to bring all their contributions together so all of them can write the story jointly. As the students and the teacher build the text jointly, they integrate and edit their contributions in terms of the genre and its tenor, mode, and matter. The teacher can assess if students are ready to go to independent writing. It may be tricky, as different groups may have different ways of expressing details of characters and the progression of the story in rhymes. It could turn out to be originals or even funny. If we have time, the teacher can ask them to illustrate the story with simple and easy drawings as a guide. Independent writing. After having worked with both modeling and joint contraction stages, the teacher will allow students to start thinking and planning the final version of the narrative poem. The role of the teacher during this stage is that of a consultant. If at this stage there are still complications about the structure or the language they will use, students have the opportunity to ask all they need to build up the feel for the story. They could record the first ideas so they start with a simple version. All the work that is preparatory for their actual writing is very useful. If the teacher feels some students are still struggling with the task, he or she might suggest them to draw sketches of the scene they have in mind and build up the language they will need. After the students hand in the text, the teacher thinks about the feedback he or she will provide. As teachers, we are positioning as interested readers rather than worried teachers. We can also make final suggestions if necessary. To conclude with this whole task, a simple collection of the works can be done. The works can be posted on the school's social media.